in long term.
Indeed, and we're also being joined by Dr. Jayjit Bhattacharya, who's the president of CDEPR. Sir, thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to newsX. Of course, our focus at the moment following, the bilateral talks held between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump is on the trade aspect of it, on the economic aspect of it. I was just discussing the focus on toys. In fact, Prime Minister Modi also gifted toys to Elon Musk and J.D. Vance's children. This is something that Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted in her budget speech, and a lot of impetus has been provided to make in India in particular. But taking a look at the larger picture, one of the big ticket items was of course the announcement of the 500 billion target by 2030. So how do you think India and the United States can achieve this target, and how do you think India can reconcile its Atmanirbharta vision along with Trump's demands for importing items from the United States of America in order to shore up the bilateral trade?
Trade is not always a zero-sum game to begin with. So there are many things that US exports, especially in the primary products, such as almonds and dry fruits and so on, where India is a pretty large market, and 90% of our almonds are being imported from US. So it's not a zero-sum game. For some of the high technology equipment such as defense, as was rightly pointed out, we are still dependent on imports, although we are pivoting towards Atmanirbhar. Now, there is clearly a 7 to 10 year period in which we will still need imports in defense, and that's when we can look into American defense equipment, which clearly are one of the best in the world and often proven, and they are battle tested. So those are things that we can look at in terms of an import basket. Now, unfortunately, overall, if you look at American products, they are becoming, unfortunately, more and more uncompetitive, especially when we're talking about manufactured products. If you look at, the US putting in 25% duty on steel and aluminium, which fortunately they have reversed. But if it had continued to go down that direction, then their automobiles would have been even more uncompetitive by that much, because steel is an important component of autos. And therefore, the complaint would have been, why isn't India importing US, autos, whereas we are doing it from the rest of the world? So we are a free, open economy, and therefore, I think the task laid out is how do we ensure that Indian consumers buy more of American products? And I think one of the way forward would be to possibly have a comprehensive free trade agreement with US, keeping everything else in mind, keeping all the other sensitivities in mind. We need to move forward in a direction where we have an FTA with a set of negative lists. And that's going to be a win-win for both US and India, because US will be able to decouple from some of the economies that it has become highly dependent on and still considers them to be an adversary. Whereas, India is a friendly, rule-based nation. And so if we put in an FTA, if we reinstate the GSP regime, which was giving a preference to India, I think those things will go a long way in ensuring that India has a larger share of US imports and the other way around, without impacting the trade deficit. The other thing I would also like to put in place is that even though we are saying that defense is a great area where India can import more of US goods, unfortunately, by past experience, we have seen that quite often we are let down. That happened during the Kargil War. In fact, that also happened during the 1971 Bangladesh War, where the US was actually sending their military, the 7th Fleet, to support the Pakistani genocide. So I think some of the trust building needs to be done on both sides so that we can move forward in a manner that Indian industry and Indian defense and Indian government can trust the Americans. And I'm sure there'll be complaints from the other side. So we need to build towards that. And given the bonhomie that has come out from the current trip of our Prime Minister and the chemistry with and his personal chemistry with the US President, we are hopeful that all of these issues can be papered out and we can quickly march towards a 2030 target of a $500 billion trade between US and India.
Indeed, with that, I would like to thank all the guests who have joined us on the broadcast this morning, of course, sharing their perspective as far as India-US economic ties and burgeoning economic ties are concerned. But that's not all that we are tracking. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also